All right, everyone, it is a massive historical day in the world of gaming news, as there's a few major stories we got to talk about, starting with a big sales roundup in the year of 2021 around the best performing Nintendo Switch games and how the Nintendo Switch console itself performed compared to the competition. And it is good news on all fronts, with the exception of the number 2 game on that list, which we will cover. And then we also have to talk about a big trilogy that is set to launch on the Nintendo Switch, now confirmed for February, with some new pricing details and even some free demos that you can go check out in the eShop right now. And then the big talking point for today's video is the mega acquisition, the biggest in video game history, announced today, that Microsoft will be acquiring Activision Blizzard. And I want to talk about what this means for the larger landscape of gaming as a whole, because in my opinion, this absolutely will affect the Nintendo Switch. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, we're hopping through a few different stories today, some of which are massive, and we will get to those at the end of the video, but we got to kick it off with some very exciting sales data that continues to show the momentum that Nintendo has with this hybrid console formula, as we have brand new NPD sales data that actually summarizes basically all of 2021. And if you guys are not familiar with the NPD, they track physical hardware and software sales in the North American region, so this is not global numbers that we are going over here, but it is a large indicator and obviously a large market for the Nintendo Switch platform. And we got to kick off this story by quickly hopping over to Nintendo Everything, where they have an article typed up suggesting that Nintendo has indeed outperformed the competition in total console sales. So let's start off there, and then I also want to read through the top 20 best-selling Nintendo Switch games in the year of 2021. Switch was the best-selling hardware platform in the US for 2021, new Pokemon milestone. We've got a couple more notes from the NPD group detailing the latest gaming sales for the US. First up, it's been confirmed that the Switch was the best-selling hardware platform in units sold during December. We're also hearing that Switch and PlayStation 5 were essentially tied for dollar sales leadership in the month. Additionally, Switch led 2021 hardware when it comes to both unit and dollar sales. Along with Switch, 2021 was a good year for Pokemon. We already know that Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were collectively the third best-selling title of December 2021, and it ranked first on Nintendo platforms for both December as well as 2021 overall. Even more significant, 2021 dollar sales of Pokemon franchise physical software reached its highest annual total since the year 2000. Now then, to quickly stack rank the top 20 best-selling Nintendo Switch titles in the year of 2021, we have the following: Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl coming in at number 1, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe coming in at number 2, because it is the gift that keeps on giving for Nintendo each and every season. It will not lose momentum. We will never see Mario Kart 9, even though there are rumors and news that are fun to talk about. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe continues to reign supreme at the top of the mountain in terms of sales and in terms of just Nintendo's best overall franchise ever. Like, it's getting ridiculous at this point. I think we're fastly approaching 40 million copies sold. So if you guys are out there and you haven't bought Mario Kart 8 Deluxe yet, please don't go buy it. They've sold enough. We need to get Mario Kart 9 or 10 or Crossroads or whatever it's going to be called in here before we need to talk about this game being sold anymore. And that is just my personal 2 cents. So please stop buying Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Number 3 on the list is Super Mario 3D World, Animal Crossing coming in at number 4, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in at number 5, Monster Hunter Rise at 6, 7, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, 8, Mario Party Superstars, 9, Pokemon Sword and Shield, 10, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, 11, Metroid Dread. Big shout out to Metroid, probably officially the best-selling Metroid game of all time. At least it will be by time we head into further into 2022, in my opinion, and hopefully this leads into nice momentum as we quickly start to talk about potentially a Prime 1 remake, maybe the Prime Trilogy HD, and then ultimately Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime is back in a big way, which is great for a fan like me to see. 12, you got new Super Mario Bros. 13, new Pokemon Snap. 14, Minecraft. 15 is Mario 3D All-Stars, which is funny because that game was discontinued back in either March or April of this year. 16 is Super Mario Party. 17, you have Super Mario Odyssey. 18, Ring Fit Adventure. 19, Mario Golf Super Rush. And number 20, Luigi's Mansion 3. And of course, we do have to point out that this is not digital data, but only physical copies. So again, good news on all fronts. Nintendo continues to perform when it comes to the highest volume sales in consoles. And you know, you obviously have a family of systems with the Nintendo Switch that comes at a much lower price entry point. They are also using the older Tegra X1 chipset, which is not near as hard to source as what Sony and Microsoft are running into with their new gen consoles. So of course you would expect Nintendo to kind of take the lead here in terms of total unit sales, but I do think that it's impressive that as far as we are into the Switch's life cycle, that with no real hardware performance improvements, it has continued to sell this well. And while the OLED model is a nice upgrade for handheld play, with the same Tegra X1 that was manufactured in 2015, I think is when that chip started to come into market, and then of course the Nintendo Switch launched in 2017, they are still selling that same base chipset and leading total console sales, which really says a lot about how successful the platform is as a whole. And of course the software is looking good on all fronts as well. So I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below what you think about the momentum of the Nintendo Switch. Do you see it slowing down anytime soon? Do you think we're going to get that rumored Switch Pro, or do you think the most recent reports are correct that we will actually just wait until the true next gen of the Switch for another revision in something like the year of 2024? So I want to hear from you guys on all your thoughts and opinions on these NPD numbers and Nintendo Switch momentum in the comments down below. Now, the next story we're talking about today, I'm personally very conflicted on, because on one note, I am happy that we are getting the Kingdom Hearts trilogy, or really the whole collection of games, as these are the remastered versions that actually have a lot of the spin-off smaller titles included in the series, ported over to the Nintendo Switch. The one asterisk there is that it is not a native port, and all of these are cloud versions. And I will start off by saying it is nice that we have new confirmed information on when these games will launch, which is February 10th, and we even have them listed in the eShop with an exact price point, and surprisingly they're launching on a sale price, so you may want to check that out if you are someone who is interested in these games. But where we have to start off this conversation is, fortunately, Nintendo has provided a demo for each individual title if you go into your eShop, and I will highly recommend you guys, before you consider purchasing or pre-purchasing these games at all, go into the eShop, boot them up, because your experience is going to totally depend on your internet connection speed and the latency behind it. So essentially you can download the demo, check out how the cloud version runs, and then make your decision, because I will tell you guys, for me personally, while my internet download speed is decent, the latency technology with cloud stuff is just clearly not there still, as I notice frame drops, I notice input delay, and just lag that really takes me out of the experience. And while I would love to get this entire trilogy purchased on my Nintendo Switch console, I can't justify doing it when these are only cloud ports, as it is just not the same experience as me booting this up on the PS4 or PS5. And I would highly recommend any Kingdom Hearts fans that do own additional platforms to look at picking this up on those platforms as opposed to the cloud versions, as they are just clearly not the best way to play. I think cloud technology has a ton of upside for the future, but to put full-scale games at really full price and ask gamers to just fully enjoy it, it's like, yeah, there's a percentage of people who have that low latency, ultra high speed internet that makes these games enjoyable. I still think you notice some input delay, but it's definitely not enough to take you out of the experience. But where we're at today, for the mass majority of consumers, this is just not going to be the ideal way to play in any way, shape, or form, not to mention the fact that it really kind of acts as the portability conversation when we talk about the Nintendo Switch with cloud versions of games, because of course you have to be around a direct high-speed internet connection. And you can say that you have Wi-Fi in your house, and that's nice, but if you ever go out and about, you may not have a quality Wi-Fi hotspot near you, or maybe your cell phone plan isn't fast enough to do this kind of ultra high-speed internet, as well as this is just, you know, still newer technology, as I said. So again, I'm very conflicted on this. I'm excited we're at least getting the titles on there, but I really wish we would have seen at least 1.5 and 2.5 and even 2.8 come as native ports, because you can say that Kingdom Hearts 3 may have been a harder project to pull off. I still think they could have done it. I mean, we have Witcher 3 running on the Switch with no major problems, so it's like, I kind of think it's in that same graphical class. I really would have rather had all of these native, but even if they would have given us the original games native, and then they just said, okay, 3 was too much work to bring over natively, so we had to do that one as a cloud, I would have found that a little bit bit more acceptable, and I would have been more excited about this overall if that was the case. But at this point, guys, I want to hear from you on how you feel about these games making it over to the Nintendo Switch with the cloud version only, and what your experience personally is with cloud gameplay, because obviously these are not the first titles that will be coming to Switch as a cloud only version. So tell me in the comments down below whether or not you're kind of with me on this, where you wish developers weren't taking this route when some of the games they're actually porting could clearly still run on the Switch with the right techniques used and the right development time behind it, and whether or not you think this will be a more prominent thing in the future as we do talk about the aging hardware of the Switch, if you think we'll see more cloud versions ported over, or if you think developers will do hopefully the right thing and put in the work to actually get these games running natively on the Switch. So I want to hear from you on all your thoughts and feelings on all things Kingdom Hearts, Trilogy, and cloud games in general in the comments down below. Now, the last story we're talking about today is honestly maybe the biggest news story that I have covered, like, period, since I've started this channel. I mean, this is actually going to massively impact the future of games as a whole, and we have the biggest mega acquisition that has ever went down or been announced, and it will probably go through from the sounds of things. Like, they still have to jump through some legal hurdles and things, but it looks like this deal could be cleared to go, and that is Microsoft purchasing Activision Blizzard for $68 billion. And you guys may remember that recently on the channel, we made a video of Zynga Games being acquired as the biggest gaming acquisition ever. To give you guys some perspective, that was like, what, an 8 to 12 billion, or maybe it was, I think it did end up at 12 billion something total valuation as far as the acquisition. And then today we're talking about Microsoft dropping the big bucks and purchasing Activision Blizzard as a whole for $68 billion. Like, this is massive. So to kick off this conversation, I do want to add a little bit of perspective into how big of a deal this is by some tweets that I read online that actually highlight just how giant this merger is, as this is more market cap than Nintendo is worth, period. And I want to talk about what this really means for the future of games, because I think this is one of the first major stepping stones to a lot of major company consolidations, and we really have to start having the conversation that games ultimately will go the way of movies and music in terms of streaming services being led as the first push, and then the physical collecting and purchasing at stores and retail stores ultimately down the line will become a thing of the past. And I'm saying that as a physical collector that loves to collect video games. I don't want to see physical collecting go away, but you know what? When's the last time you've been to Blockbuster? You know what I mean? I have nostalgia for actually going and renting movies on the weekend, and I don't do that anymore. I literally just pop into my Apple TV and I rent whatever I want to rent, and it's done. Or there's tons of movies on Netflix and Hulu. When's the last time you bought an MP3 track or a CD? Like, maybe you're somebody who still goes out and does that things, but when you're talking about the masses, it really is a different landscape now. So we got to cover all the details and break it all down. But to start off the conversation, let's highlight a couple different tweets that talk about how big of a merger this is and what it could mean for the future of gaming. So the first tweet I want to highlight to kind of put this in perspective for you guys on how big of a deal this is from Dr. Surikan Toto, and he says the following: by comparison, Nintendo's market capitalization is currently $61 billion US. And of course, he's referencing the Bloomberg breaking article. Microsoft is nearing a deal to buy troubled video game maker Activision Blizzard at a valuation of $70 billion. You then have a tweet from Matthew Ford, and he says the following: to put in perspective how big of a deal Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard is, here's the top 5 biggest video game acquisitions in history. Activision now topping the charts at $68.7 billion, Zynga Games at $12.7 billion, Supercell at $10.2 billion, Bethesda at $7.5 billion, and King at $5.9 billion. I lastly want to quickly highlight a tweet from Emily Rogers that states kind of where I am falling on my overall opinion with what this means for the future, and she highlights the following: with the rise of gaming subscription services, I imagine we'll see more big, shocking, what the hell acquisitions in the gaming industry. Similar to how the subscription wars have caused so many acquisitions and mergers in TV/film, Disney/Fox, Warner Bros/Discovery, Viacom CBS. For example, you've read Bloomberg's report about Sony developing a service to compete against Game Pass. I imagine Sony will eventually feel pressured to make big moves, acquisitions to secure more exclusive content for that service. So you may hear me say all that and say, well, okay, that's great for Microsoft and all, and them and Sony are going to be competing more direct now with these subscription services, but what does that mean for the Nintendo Switch at the end of the day? And I think that we can paint a pretty clear picture of what Nintendo may do from here. There's obviously a lot of variables. Game Pass is going to be stacked for $15 a month. Like, they'll probably up that price at some point. Microsoft is securing like so many franchises, it's ridiculous. They technically now own Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Tony Hawk games. Like, they own it all essentially, and they get to choose, of course, if they still want to support multi-platform type stuff. But similar to the Bethesda thing, I think they're going to slowly bring all of these major money-making franchises into their own ecosystem. And then you have the conversation, does Game Pass ultimately end up on other platforms besides just mobile gaming that we know it'll hit, like tablets and PCs and things? You know, all of that stuff obviously is a big part of Game Pass's strategy. Do Microsoft and Nintendo ever work together and one day put Game Pass on the Switch? Well, I think that's one way you can look at it, and it's definitely a strong possibility in some senses, as Microsoft and Nintendo have a very strong working relationship. We know we're getting the Banjo games ported over to Nintendo Switch Online, or at least the first one. I would assume Banjo-Tooie will come at some point, but regardless, you know, them with Rare, they're working together with licensing rights and things. We have all the GoldenEye rumors to look forward to, but regardless, I think personally where I land on this is that subscriptions is the future for gaming eventually. It's not going to be overnight. We're not going to see all of these GameStops just disappear like we saw Blockbusters disappear back in the day and physical collecting become a thing of the past. It's going to be a slow transition, and as internet gets better over time and as things just get more convenient to be marketed in a $15 or $20, even $25 a month subscription service, if you're getting $70 games brand new day one included in part of that service, we are going to see that ultimately most likely dominate the industry. And in my opinion, Nintendo will be slow to respond, but they ultimately will. And I think as opposed to them using something like Game Pass on the Switch service, Nintendo's probably going to build out Nintendo Switch Online to a massive Disney Plus level experience where most of Nintendo's catalog is included for a monthly fee. And that's at least what I can see them doing where everything stands today. I will be curious to see how they handle this as time goes on, because obviously just to call them out, they are very behind the times with what happens on other platforms in terms of online functionality specifically. They are great at creating fantastic gameplay experiences, and the hybrid console thing was really ahead of its time in its own way, because now you can play at home or on the go. But I think that they ultimately will cave into the subscription model and launch something fully fledged, like their entire library or what they can license, and put out really all of their first party hits as part of a massive collection. And my only hope is that they slow down and do some remasters and upgrades along the way while we are talking about playing these games on a subscription service, because I don't want to play GameCube games in 480p, you know, like I want to have them up-resed and upscaled if we do ever get this kind of service. But I had to put this information out there for you guys. I want to hear your personal opinions at this point in the video on what you think this Activision Blizzard deal really means for the future of gaming, whether or not you think we'll see major company acquisitions going forward from Sony and maybe even Nintendo acquiring more to kind of start the conversation of potentially building an online subscription service, or whether or not you just disagree with me completely and you don't think this means any of that, and Game Pass will be a thing for a while, but maybe it'll go away and we'll always kind of be purchasing games at that $60 to $70 or maybe one day in the future $80 or $90 price. Like, I want to hear from you guys on all your thoughts and opinions on this topic and what you think it means for this future of Nintendo Switch and a potential subscription service coming to the console down the line in the comments down below, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around this topic. Thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. I do truly appreciate you all sticking around until the end. I do at this point in the video want to invite you all one more time to join Sunbro Nation if you haven't done so already. Do so by subscribing below, hit the like button on your way out if you enjoyed it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. That's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you all have a great day. Sunbro Nation, out.